So historically, there's been this sort of gesture that you can just do what you want, and whatever follows after that will be a natural consequence of what you do. So you can essentially commit the most horrible evil, and at the same time know that you're characterizing the world that is to come, and it could be a beautiful world. Would that place you in, in 1,000 years as, a kind of Julius Caesar who, in effect did some horrible things, but after so much time, in retrospect, becomes this cultural hallmark, So I think about, how am I going to use my life? How am I going to live my life? Do I want to appease the ethics of today and tomorrow, be a do-gooder for my contemporaries? Or do I want to become an iconic sort of emblem for future generations, far, far in the future, millennia to come, where they will look back at my atrocious doings and think, well, we are who we are today because of what she has done, what she has wrought on this planet. A little bit like natural disasters. The disaster that happened in the Ice Age and wiped out so many carnivore species and allowed the mammalian takeover to occur. And here we are, So history will bend what is ethically acceptable. And that's interesting. So you can choose, you can do whatever you want. Even if you have that megalomaniac tendency, there is a place for you in this world. You just have to think, well, I want to contribute to this planet on a larger scale, like looking way into the future. And you'll hear these do-gooders talking about, thinking generations ahead. For example, climate activists, they will often talk about safeguarding our planet for future generations, but all they're really doing is conserving the planet. Keeping it the same, or at least that's what they aim to do. Is this really going to change things? Going to create a schism in the timeline of human history so that people in the future look back and say, hey, what were they doing? Instead they're going to look back and say, hey, those climate activists, those were the guys that kept things the same. In fact, because of that fact, they're not even going to talk about those guys. So you have to think today, if you are that sort of person to whom it just comes naturally to think, imperialistically, colonialistically, don't just listen to those guys who are just oppressing you right now because they're thinking in the present or 50 years ahead. Think about your legacy as thousands of years in the future. Think like Julius Caesar did, And know that there is a place for you too, for your talents as well, that you will leave your lasting legacy and potentially create far more advanced civilizations than a conservationist will do. So that's my advice for you guys out there who feel a little bit outside of things right now because you're not considered ethical or a do-gooder or whatever. There is a place for you too, I promise.